many of your books, you will encounter characters that are manipulative, right? Or their relationships are one that involve manipulation. So this is an adjective. So it describes either a person or a relationship.
Wait.
So basically, when you have someone who's manipulative, right, it means you're skillful in influencing or controlling others, but it's to your own advantage, all right? So a manipulative person uses passive or sneaky techniques to get what they want, like saying, oh, aren't you so lucky to have all that chocolate? It really would look so good. But what they really want is for you to offer them one, right? So they're kind of like using little tricky, sneaky ways to get what they want. How many of you read a book where you had a character or a relationship that was one based upon manipulation? Or a movie? Basically, like in the book Bystander, you have this one antagonist, right? The protagonist is the good guy, the antagonist is the bad guy. So the antagonist, what he does is he goes over to this one kid's house and he almost like plays upon the kid's feelings. I guess the kid, like his dad no longer lives there, and he's like, oh, I feel so sorry for you. But really what he wanted was to like steal like some of the money that was in his room. So he's being a little manipulative and getting what he wants. Jules. A good example, as you said in here today, Tammy is manipulative. So basically she only spoke to with Ellie about Doris because why? Well, she only spoke to Ellie because she wanted to get closer to Doris to maybe like steer her in the right direction of how to be a model or get into acting, right? So Tammy was very manipulative. So when you talk about manipulation, it's doing sneaky things to get what they want, right? So the beautiful young manipulative woman found it easy to coerce, which means like to convince the wealthy older man into giving her money. So what context clues did you use to help you figure out the meaning of the word? So if you have like what words in here tell you, like give you a hint that this means that it describes a relationship or somebody who's kind of sneaky and wants control. Jake.
I said it's easy to
Coerce. Yeah.
and
Giving money. Good. When we talk about turbulent, right? Did we do this word before?
Yeah.
Oh.
Did we?
All right. So it's an adjective. So basically, when you think of turbulent, you think of turbulence, right? Like on an airplane where it's kind of like shaky and rocky and not smooth. So the same thing. So turbulent is, it means that there's conflict or disorder or confusion, or it's not stable or calm. So you could talk about like a setting could be turbulent, a relationship could be turbulent. So it means chaotic, disordered. A time of war is a turbulent time for a country. If your family moves and your parents get divorced, you might call that a turbulent period in history. Because of my turbulent history with my mother, I find it difficult to establish lasting relationships with women. So how many of you have a book where there's a turbulent relationship, where it's really not stable? There's a lot of chaos, a lot of disorder in the relationship. Turbulent doesn't just mean it has a little chaos and then it gets better, has a little chaos. Turbulent means you're filled with conflict and chaos consistently, all right? So would you call a turbulent relationship a positive or negative relationship? Negative. It is negative. You don't want to have a turbulent relationship. What would cause a relationship to have turbulence in it? So let's say you have a child and a parent. So you have, so me and Riley. So what would cause our relationship to be so turbulent? Or let's say a teenage kid and a parent. That might be easier. Like what would happen in that relationship that would make it turbulent? I think of turbulent relationships. I think of like a lot of the relationships on like Dr. Phil. Right? Like maybe, the girl, like I was watching I was watching an episode yesterday, and the girl was 21, and when she turned 14, she would sneak out of the house, and then she started smoking, and then she started like doing all these inappropriate things for a 14-year-old. So because of what the girl was doing, guys, because of how her actions were, that caused the relationship between her and her parents to be very turbulent. All right? A relationship that is estranged, right? It means that you once were close, but for whatever happened, you're no longer close or affectionate to someone. You're alienated. All right. So it says here it suggests a loss of affection, a turning away from someone. When a couple separates, we often refer to them as estranged or no longer together. So estranged has an unfriendly, like a negative connotation. So what would cause, God bless you, what would cause a relationship to become estranged? Like maybe at one point they were close, but now they're no longer close. Kyle. It's not like a whole family, like you have like grown adults, like say me, my sister, my brother, my parents. Like what might cause us to become like we once were talking, but now all of a sudden something happened and we no longer talk? Raise your hand. So what might cause us to become estranged? Yeah.
You all be like in a really bad argument about something.
Right, well, okay, so let's say one of my parents died and they left a will, but then there's this whole big argument, like, you know, maybe my father gave more money to my sister, so then that got me upset, so then I no longer talk to my sister. So that's something that would make you become estranged. Like it has to be some kind of conflict that occurred within the relationship to make them no longer close. So I know in a couple of these books, right? Who's reading? Is anybody reading Freak the Mighty?
Oh, I read
There's
that.
definitely an estranged relationship in there. All right?
We didn't read it.
I know. Is anybody reading Bystander? There's definitely an estranged relationship in there. After a big fight, the sisters became estranged and avoided each other for 10 years. Recently estranged for months, the two friends have decided to meet and talk out their differences. So it could be like, if you're thinking about like maybe there was one friend and she, for whatever reason, spread this rumor about her other friend. And her friend found out. So her friend would, you know, they once were close and now they no longer talk because of this big conflict, so they become estranged. All right? Do you guys understand the meaning of estranged? Clannish. Oh, I think you see a lot of clannishness going on in middle school. So basically, this is an adjective again because it could describe a group of people, a relationship. So basically, when you are clannish, you stick to your group, your clan, think of the word clan, and you don't let others from the outside into your group, right? So, for example, they were a clannish lot, not given to welcome strangers. Oops, sorry, let me go back. Think about clannish. Would you say, and raise your hand, we don't want to call out, would this be a positive trait to have or a negative trait? Raise your hand. I'm saying it's negative because they're excluding people and that's a negative thing. Yes? Oh, or it could be positive because they're loyal. So how many of you have a book that you read where within like some of the relationship, the dynamics, there was a clannish group in your book? I think go ahead.
What's it called?
Here Today.
Tammy's group was like Sean's friends.
Yes, and Here Today, Tammy's group was very clannish. They stuck with themselves and nobody else. Yes.
So it was like the Witch Tree Lane kids.
The Witch Tree Lane kids. They were all right, but now here, Tammy's group, was that clannish, negative, or positive?
Negative.
But then the Witch Tree Lane kids, was that negative or positive? Positive. But the only reason why the Witch Tree Lane kids were clannish was because of why?
They were like outsiders.
They were outsiders, right? They're outcasts.
To them.
So we're talking about maternal. So if you look at the word maternal, like you think of like the maternity ward in the hospital, right? So when you're talking about maternal, basically describes a relationship or a type of person that's very motherly, right? So if you're maternal, you would, you know, like it says right here, bring people, like if someone's sick, you would bring them chicken soup or give them kisses or make sure that they're okay. So the two examples, like the cats, so a cat could be maternal. The cat's maternal instinct led her to adopt the lost puppy. Even though the woman was not her mother, they had a very maternal relationship. The woman would make her soup when she was sick and always make sure she was happy. So maternal means that you're very mother-like. So for example, I was watching this movie, I forget what it was called, and the girl in the movie, her parents died in a car accident, so the next door neighbor took her on, and she wasn't her mother. So your maternal is somebody who's acting like your mother, but they're not your mother. Yes?
In the book, this girl, her mom died in a car accident, and then she has a stepmom, and then her stepmom like tries to be like
Her mom?
Yeah, but like she doesn't really.
Okay. So is maternal a negative or positive trait? Positive, right? Normally, if you are maternal, that means you're also very nurturing, right? But you can still be nurturing and not be maternal, because maternal is maternal would describe someone who's motherly. So when they're motherly, they're also nurturing. So it means they're supportive and encouraging. All right, so think of it this way. If you plant a seed, water it all day, and give a lot of light, you nurture it until it's ready to be transplanted outside. When you nurture a person or a thing, you care for it and help it to grow. All right? So after a fight with your friend, you may have to nurture the relationship a little until you're close again. So use the phrase nature versus nurture to help you remember the word. Nature is a baby just out of the womb. Nurture is how that baby is raised or taken care of. So once a child is older, you may wonder if his or her love of reading is nature or nurture. It is naturally born, or is it because you read to the baby every night? So example sentence would be, due to the teacher's nurturing personality, the students really loved having her as a teacher. All right? So nurturing. So how many of you have a character in your book or relationship where it was one of nurturing? My book that I'm reading, it's called Everything, Everything. I'm not sure if you saw the movie. All right. So basically this girl has this disease where she's allergic to basically everything, and it prevents her from leaving her house. So her mother, because she has this disease, is extremely nurturing to her. And she also has this like live-in aide. Well, she doesn't live in. She has this like woman, this aide who comes to her house every day. And she's very maternal, because she treats, even though she's not the girl's mother, she treats her like the girl is her daughter, right? Like she gives her advice. So, but she's also very nurturing. Like, for example, there's this boy next door that he's new. He just moved to the neighborhood. The girl's in high school. And remember, she has never left her house since she was 3, ever, at all. So when people come into her house, she has this, Anthony, stop. She has this, like, decontamination thing. So you go into this one room, and it's almost like this wind tunnel that supposedly takes off all the germs of you, and then you can go into her house. So she sees this boy next door, and they kind of start talking, like I guess kind of like through the window. Then they start, IMing and emailing. And so her mom would never let this boy come into her house because the boy could have germs and contaminate the girl and get the girl sick. So this woman, I forget her name, who's like her aide, is like, you know what, I understand you're a teenager. So the woman lets the kid come into the house. But then what happens is this girl gets so into this boy that she's kind of like ignoring her mom. So the aide, who's very nurturing and maternal, says to her, like, look, you're forgetting about your mom. You need to make sure that you go see her. So she's being very maternal and very nurturing, like acting like a mother. Anybody interested in that book?
What's in the mom? I think I saw it.
So besides these, I think these are 7 words, you also have the words here in green. So you have vengeful, all right, liberating, somber, hostile, discontented, passive, assertive, meek, unstable. So we did these words a while ago, but we were never tested on them. So when we take the test on next Friday, you are going to have these words in addition to these. So if you look in your reader's notebook, it's vocab number 6 and vocab number 7. So in your reader's notebook right now, look for where vocab number 6 is.